Broadcasting from the Hip Hop Weekly studios, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Civic Cipher, a very special episode where our mission is to foster allyship, empathy, and understanding. I'm your host, Ramses Ja.
He is Ramses Ja. I am Q Ward. You are tuned in to Civic Cipher.
Indeed you are. And as I mentioned, it is a special episode because, let me back up a bit. For those that know, we are interested in social justice. We're interested in elevating Black voices and amplifying Black voices. We're interested in cultivating safe spaces for Black creators, Black minds, Black culture, etc. Well, there is another like-minded individual among the tech giants in the world right now, and he has decided to descend from his throne on high and spend a little bit of time with us here on Civic Cipher. He goes by the name of Isaac Hayes III. Again, the tech world giant, the social media thought leader, and indeed the founder of the social media app Fanbase. So welcome to the show, sir. We appreciate you spending some time with us.
What an amazing intro. I can't believe a tech giant. Thank you.
That's a deserving intro, man, for real.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. I'm working hard. We're hard at work at Fanbase right now. I'm so happy to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you guys and talk to your audience and have a conversation about a great many things. Yeah.
And we're really excited to get to that because obviously social media, we exist in a broadcast space, but we cannot exist in the space without social media. Social media shapes so much of our activism, so much of the conversations that we have as individuals and as a group of people, as a community. And so, again, we're looking forward to that conversation. But before we get there, like we always do at this time, we're going to start with some Ebony Excellence.
Shall we?
I think we shall.
Today's Ebony Excellence, sponsored by Actively Black. There's greatness in our DNA. Visit activelyblack.com. This story comes from ESPN. Unlike during her two previous heats at the U.S. Olympic trials this weekend, when she exuberantly saluted the crowd upon her introduction, Sha'Carri Richardson's 100-meter women's final Saturday night at Hayward Field began much differently. Hands on her hips, she stared straight ahead, locked into focus that 10.71 seconds later made her an Olympian for the first time in her career. With that blistering time, the fastest in the world by a woman this year, Richardson took gold in the event and punched her ticket to Paris. There she will be joining training partners Melissa Jefferson and Twanisha T.T. Terry, who placed second and third respectively. After crossing the finish line, Richardson, 24, jogged half the first turn of the track before dropping to a knee, bending her head and allowing a few moments of emotion to take over. She said, and I quote, "I'm definitely still confident, still my exciting normal self, but more so overwhelmed with just emotions of joy," Richardson said of her post-race celebration. Many of you might remember in 2021, Sha'Carri was the number one qualifier to represent the U.S. at the Olympics, but she had just lost her mother, and she medicated the way that some would in that case. She popped positive for THC, was suspended, and was not allowed to compete. As usual, people like to say that we interject race into things, but I just think it's important to point out that a Russian athlete popped for a performance-enhancing drug, which marijuana is not, and was still allowed to compete. So we call out those hypocrisies when they happen, but shout out to Sha'Carri for representing us well, and we're looking forward to seeing her on the podium in Paris.
Let's get to it. All right. So the man of the hour, Isaac Hayes III. So, longtime listeners of the show may be aware that, you've been on the show with us before, but that was some time ago. And honestly, it was, full disclosure, it was some audio that we had from a separate conversation that we repurposed for Civic Cipher just because we were so excited to be able to talk to you the first time anyway. But, we have a lot more listeners now. A lot of people have joined this journey known as Civic Cipher. So for those folks, do us a favor and talk a little bit about your background. And, obviously your name is Isaac Hayes III. So that's a great place to start. But, let's connect you to Fanbase and what that is.
Well, first, I'm a I'm a son of the legendary Isaac Hayes, singer, songwriter, producer, artist, icon, global superstar.
Keep going.
I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, but happened to be raised right here in Atlanta, Georgia. I moved here when I was 3 years old. Actually had my 4th birthday party right here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I've been here ever since. And that led me to following in my father's footsteps as a songwriter, producer, and a voiceover artist for about 20 plus years. And I think I did pretty good. And I think as a youngster, I was always interested in one of two things. I always thought I was either going to make video games or make music. And so right around 2018, I got this idea that I wanted to build a social media platform, which sounds kind of crazy because a guy coming from the music business that really didn't have any knowledge of the tech space wanted to do something like that. So I took it upon myself to kind of educate myself about tech all of 2018 and wound up building a platform called Fanbase. Self-financed with my own money. Spent about $200,000 of my own capital to build it, which was a lot of money that I didn't have. But I am a career entrepreneur, so I'm a risk taker. I wasn't afraid to do it because I believed in what we were doing. And so it worked out pretty well. We were able to develop and build an MVP of a next generation social media platform that combines the free aspects of everything that exists on social media now, but subscriptions, which is something relatively new for most people. And I kind of transitioned into being a tech founder. So I find myself in 2024, the founder and CEO of Fanbase, a little departure from where I was, but something that I feel like totally belongs to me, and I'm in my own space and kind of creating my own lane. So I'm excited. I think these last 5 years have been the most happy professionally of my life because it's just been a challenge, but it's been a lot of fun at the same time.
So not everyone is an early adopter like us. I'm sure you know this firsthand, and you probably get asked this question, during interviews and face-to-face one-on-one conversations with people. What Fanbase is entering a space that some might consider to be crowded already. You have your Twitters and your Instagrams and your TikToks and all of these other spaces where people gather in the social media ecosystem. What is some of the things what are some of the things that differentiate Fanbase from some of these legacy platforms?
Well, I think I want to start first by saying I think that the big differentiator between every social app is actually the generation that make the app relevant. So there was a MySpace generation and a Facebook generation and an Instagram generation and a Snapchat generation and a TikTok generation. And I think there will continue to be other generations of young people that use social media in ways that are different from the previous generation or create community that belongs specifically to themselves, right? So the Facebook era, Facebook is 20 years old now. So if you were a 24-year-old, using Facebook right out of college, you're 44 now. So now you might be a parent with some kids. You might not be different. College life was a lot different then. And so your children are definitely not going to be looking at, coming to Facebook or coming to Instagram because it's oversaturated with where you are. So I think the biggest differentiator that I wanted to do with Fanbase is create something for a next generation of users. So it's for the planet to use, but young people primarily set the trends and set the tone for what everybody else is going to be into because they're the ones that are ahead of the curve. They are the early adapters for that. And then I think we've gotten to this point in social media where everything is so congested and controlled and manipulated through algorithms and advertising that really prevent people from just being able to be themselves without some sort of limitation, without some sort of requirement, or how many followers do you have, or how much watch time do you have, or all these things. And so I wanted to make something immediately that people could jump on, express themselves, feel like they weren't limited in what they were able to create and do, and then add monetization on top of this free foundation platform that people really don't understand, that subscriptions are something that I think are becoming more and more part of the conversation for younger people is paying for content because we've been used to giving content away for free for the last 20 years. that we really understand that there's an economic value to that because it's creating engagement, which allows these platforms to make money off advertising. So, something that's next generation, something that is limitless for people that want to use it, and something that's monetized. And so those are the differentiators, I think, from Fanbase and every other platform.
So one of the things that I discovered or learned just kind of by following your social media, because this is going to be a while before I get to the question, but it's worth it, is that there's a lot more behind the scenes. I followed your social media for some time. A lot of, like, again, thought leaders, people that are great orators and are really tapped into the culture. There's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes when it comes to social media, things that, a person like me was always sort of a casual participant with respect to social media would not be aware of. My background is in broadcasting, so I've always had a significant enough platform that social media just kind of felt like a secondary element. And now, of course, it very much feels like a primary element, right? Mm-hmm. So, one of the things that I learned is that, algorithms shape outcomes, not followers, not, all these things that we're accustomed to using as metrics for our social media. They don't matter as much as engagement. And engagement is kind of fueled or generated by algorithms, right? So that once upon a time caused us to pivot with our social media, because when we started Civic Cipher, of course, we had our own personal pages where we put up pictures of ourselves and our kids and that sort of stuff. Having a platform such as Civic Cipher, where we're sharing articles and so forth, there's a different way to engage with the algorithm, right? So we decided that we would play that game because, again, this needs to exist alongside our radio show, alongside the podcast, alongside our in-person events, and so forth, right? It's an entire marketing mix. Well, turns out that even those algorithms aren't free from human influence, right? And so if we post something that agitates the powers that be at one of the legacy platforms that we've discussed, that you mentioned, we can find ourselves with a strike, which feels like kind of childish, like 3 strikes and you're out, or like we get a slap on the wrist, like we're behaving badly. Yeah. Or we could see our content, it's called shadow ban. I'm sure you're more familiar with that sort of thing than we are, where your engagement is artificially suppressed by the platform, and the normal amount of people that you would share your content with are no longer able to see it, and so forth, right? So you were discussing all of these different things to suggest that Fanbase was largely free of these sorts of influences, artificial and external influences, and that content creators would be more directly engaged with their audiences via Fanbase. In other words, it's a great place for people who are activist types, people who really want to see change in the world, people that have to share content that some folks might find troubling, disturbing, etc. Fanbase is a great place to either move your content or move your followers over to, so that you can really help get the word out about what it is you're doing, what it is you're fighting for. So do me a favor, talk a little bit about, well, first off, do I have that right? And then second of all, talk about why that's important at Fanbase, where other places are not doing that.
Well, yeah, you absolutely have it right. I think social media was a lot different. If I were to use a platform, let's say like Instagram from 2010 to 2014, it was very different from what it became before advertising came into play. Once advertising gets involved, there are requirements that the company has to have to make sure that they're making money, right? And so therefore, reach is one of those things that changes. Meaning, if you were able to reach 1 million people before platforms started running ads, you're not going to be able to reach 1 million people now, because you are now just as popular or as powerful as the app itself.
Sure.
And they can't have that, because how are they going to make money? If you can reach the same amount of people that the app can reach, and advertisers would just come and strike deals with you and not strike deals with the app to make money. So therefore, they have to smush your content down and suppress your content. Also, advertisers control the nature and the texture and the tone of what goes on social media. So if there are very controversial topics or things that are sensitive in nature that advertisers don't want their money being spent running next to or be a part of, I think the platforms are going to be a lot more loyal to the advertisers who pay the bills than the users of the platform who have a message to convey.
Yeah, that's fair.
Black Lives Matter, if it is LGBTQ movement, if it is movements over in the Middle East, I think that advertisers have a lot more influence over the type of information that gets distributed because they're the ones keeping the lights on over at the platform, and those platforms want to stay in favor to continue to have an advertising relationship. So that's absolutely true. For us, Fanbase was never designed to run ads. It doesn't mean that advertising isn't something that we would ever consider doing, but it's definitely something that is not first nature of what we're doing and the reason why we built the platform. Because if I build a platform that is built on advertising, then I have to repeat the same behavior that Facebook and Instagram and X and all these other platforms do, which is suppress your content, which I don't want to do. I want a future where people can reach millions and millions of people with their content and get their message out there without fear of being shadow banned, suppressed, or having their accounts taken down. And that's very disruptive. And I think that makes a lot of people uneasy, and a lot of people don't like that, which is actually a good thing in tech. If you're putting someone off, you're doing the right thing. And so I want to be disruptive in that fashion because there's nothing that's going to stop it. I think that people just really want to find ways that they can monetize and control that. And I'm not here to try to control people. I'm here to try to kind of take the reins off of what people have in social media, the experiences that they're having, and let them have the ability to connect with people in a way that they've never had before.
The last time we spoke, we talked about community versus celebrity.
Yeah.
And I think, full disclosure, Ramses and I are investors in Fanbase, but we're also users of the platform. And I noticed something recently, and this is kind of a left turn from prior conversations that we've had, but this is something that caught my attention, and I can't keep thinking about it without asking you about it. I always join the audio rooms because I think it's very cool that Fanbase always sends me a notification, especially if you're in an audio room. I always jump in it. When you talk about the community and this this generation of contrarianism, or however you say that we are in right now, I notice people in the chat, in the rooms, speaking negatively about the app, speaking negatively about the experience, and trying to discourage people from using the app in the app. And I was not just caught off guard by it, but kind of confused by the idea that someone would come to the platform to discourage people from being on the platform. Is it hard for you as the founder and creator to not take things like that personally when you're present, or is that just something that comes with it and doesn't really bug you that much?
No, it doesn't. The reason is because I think that the power of choice is so woven into the fabric of what it means to be human. We are binary people, and we have to have the ability to make one decision or another. And it's actually a really great defense mechanism. I say this all the time. I was like, if everybody decided that, to walk one direction where everybody might fall off a cliff, and we all went, we'd all die. But if half the people are like, I don't think we should go that way, I want to go this way, I want to go another direction, then half the population is spared. So the fact that we disagree is necessary for our existence. It creates individuality, it creates conflict, it creates change. And so even with people that come on the platform that may have something negative to say about Fanbase, they're there, right? And I think that conflict is a key component of engagement on social media. There's these 4 pillars of engagement that I've come up with that I think are very, very critical, which are attention, information, entertainment, and conflict. And conflict is such a necessary part of being human, in even in small ways where we can disagree about who your favorite sports team is, or who's winning between Drake and Kendrick. that's still conflict, but it's not global World War III conflict, but there's still a level of conflict that gives people the identity to decide I'm Team Kendrick or I'm Team Drake, or I'm a Celtics fan or I'm a Mavericks fan. And so I like Fanbase or I don't like Fanbase. And I think that all that is relatively important. And some people just have to be contrarian. You just have to. It's like for every person that loves iPhone, there's got to be a person that loves Android. So somebody's got to be against it. It just comes with it. I think that's always going to be par for the course. And so I definitely don't take issue with that because that's just expected. That's what I've learned to understand, that people are always going to disagree with you. And in some instances, it makes for great engagement.
Sure. And you know what? One of the things that I've learned too is that people will often, like when Elon Musk, first took over Twitter, there were a lot of people that aired out their grievances on Twitter. So that's kind of par for the course. I think you're absolutely right. And then obviously Instagram has gone through its changes over the years, Facebook, every single, even MySpace. And there were people complaining on the platform, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that. And so that just kind of comes with the territory. One of the things that I feel, though, is a little bit more special with Fanbase. I know Fanbase is an app for all content creators, not just Black content creators, but it certainly does feel like there's an added layer of protection just kind of built into the framework of the company that kind of secures the boundaries of Black culture, maybe other cultures too, but I only know Black culture. So give me about 30 seconds, talk about that, whether or not that was intentional and what the benefits of that could be.
Well, I understood the effect that Black culture has on social media. And I wanted to make something because a lot of times our culture is misrepresented or misunderstood or exploited in a way that is harmful to or negative to the culture creators, the young people that make the content it created. So I wanted to make sure that even though Fanbase is a global platform, that they understand that the person that has built this platform and is overseeing the growth and the function of this platform is someone that is just like them. So they don't have to worry about those particular things. And we see those things happen all the time, the way certain creators get treated on social media and platforms like TikTok and get disrespected with racism on other platforms, even like X. And so there is a care and consideration there that someone that looks like you or understands you is also there. So that even though Fanbase is for everybody, there won't be this attack on Black culture or this exploit relationship between Black culture and social media.